Hello, loves. Welcome back to another review, part 2 of The Chosen Season 3. I will warn you, this last half deals with a trigger warning in case any of this bothers some people. We are dealing with a miscarriage storyline. I know that's a bit of a spoiler, but I won't get into it until I get into it more than that, but I just figured I'd go ahead and warn you guys. I don't think it should necessarily bother too much with the review itself. I don't want to say that in general, because maybe it will, but definitely in the episode itself, watching it, just like the things with the demonic possessions and the SA, I just wanted to go ahead and give you that quick warning, that way in case you do end up going to see it, that way you have that warning. But yeah, let's go ahead and get on into it. We start off with episode 5. We pick up with part 2, both of this review and this episode set titled Clean. This one pretty much ties up loose ends from the episode prior, while also opening up other wounds. One in particular is the reason why Enid has been so temperamental. Also, actually, scratch that, not Enid. I keep calling her that because I have assumed this whole time that her name was Enid. But no, her name is Eden. And like I said, I don't know why it took me literally reviewing, and I say reviewing because I have watched the series countless times. So it was literally 3 reviews on top of those countless viewings that I realized Eden's name was Eden and not Enid. Like, seriously, okay, then, but hey, better late than never, I guess. But yeah, I will try to keep calling her, or not keep calling her, I will try to start calling her Eden, but if I do slip up, understand that that is the deal. And if you have heard me reference her as Enid in the past, just understand that's because I was under the impression, for some odd reason, that that was her name. But yes, let's get on back into it. We find out that while Simon was gone 2 weeks before he returned, Eden, yeah, okay, this is definitely going to take some getting used to for that change, but yeah, let's take it a little bit of a serious tone. She lost their baby, and it's the burden she's been carrying, as I'm sure has been like an unbearable pain. Now it makes a lot of sense of the things she said, and like they make more sense and how she's been behaving, but like still, girly, this is not a pain you need to be holding on your own. Like, this is definitely not something that you need to bear alone, like not at all. We flash forward and we are with Jairus and his family as his daughter Neely is barely holding on. The doctor tells him to prepare for her passing, but he's not so willing to do so. He has the idea to get Jesus to heal her. He has full faith he'll be able to. So he's on the hunt for him, along with Yusuf, who bumps into him first and then joins him to help find Jesus. When Simon and Eden next, he's still trying to fix things, but as we saw, it's not something that's going to be so easily fixed. He ends up taking himself then to work on the cistern, with things still at odds between them. Gaius's advice wasn't all that helpful either, but girly, you cannot be holding your man for something he has no clue about, especially when he is trying. Like, this boy is trying. It's why so often there are feuds between loved ones. We expect to have others read our minds, or at least the situation at hand, and hold too much over them for naught, when we too often can't. Many times we need to give grace. Now, if Simon did know and didn't care, like, I could see a valid reason for like the frustration. Not that her frustration isn't valid. Like, I get girls kind of going through something, but I mean, give your man a break. He is genuinely trying. Like, if you are at least in the mindset to where you can try to think about giving grace, you have to, as much as you can, push to give grace and try to be like, open up about that. Like, I know it's hard, but it's harder when you're holding things on people that they don't deserve. Be sure to give grace to others, because even if you could or can read things to realize when there is hurt, not everyone can. There are plenty of others who try and simply don't know. They are some that have hard times seeing what others can't. So please give grace and mercy in these situations. Be humble enough to realize that your anger might not be what's needed to help things, and in fact could be the thing to push a good person out of your life. With Zebedee, he had made the decision to buy an olive grove. That way he will have more control over the olives produced and better quality for his oil. We are with Nathaniel and Thad as they are bringing back water before they come across our woman friend from the prior episode, Veronica. They mention following Jesus, and she begs them to take her to him, and he's the hope and the very reason for her coming to Capernaum in the first place, her last hope, like so many others that come for him. So they have compassion and do as such. Some more bonding between Simon and Gaius as they fix the cistern. Things are close to finished, and it seems as though he might be coming around to our disciples. Another ally, maybe? He even talks about a problem at home. He has a servant boy who is ill that his son looks at like a brother, so he's become family to them. Maybe another string even being placed for a later miracle. We do have a Roman soldier in the Bible who asked for his servant's healing, so maybe Gaius is that soldier. Jairus and Yusuf stop at Andrew's first to see if he knows where Jesus is, but it's only Judas that's home. He's the next one to try and help by telling them to find Simon. We meet with Jesus and a few as he is indeed at Simon's, just Simon is not there. But a handful of disciples are. Jairus and Yusuf barge in, and Jairus tells about the help he needs. Jesus feels for him and agrees to help, and they head to his place. The problem is that the crowd floods around him to slow their pace. Our other small group, Nathaniel, Thad, and Veronica, notice the crowd on their way into town. They try to make it in, but Nathaniel and Thad apologize as they see they won't make it in. But Veronica isn't ready to give up. She pushes her way through the crowd. She's desperate to just touch the fringe of his clothes, believing that even such a simple thing would heal her from him. And it does. It's instant, but so is the stopping of Jesus. He notices healing power had gone out of him and asked who it was that touched him. Again, another beautiful portrayed moment that is biblical. This and Jairus' story as well with his daughter. Seriously, Veronica takes a moment before she comes clean, and Jesus tells her how it was her faith that healed her before he calls her daughter, which gives all the feels. Anyone who feels misplaced or alone, hearing that, it just fills you in the best way. We are back on track with Jairus' miracle before being stopped and told that his daughter has passed away. Jesus tells him to keep faith and believe. Jesus, Simon, James, John, and Jairus head upstairs to join Neely and her mother before Jesus does the unbelievable and raises her from the dead. It's a miracle that's so hard to believe, but happened. Again, so touching. It's coming out that the issues arise as the Pharisees that was at Jairus' house gives them grief for touching a dead body and shouting blasphemy against Jesus. More trouble, and it seems like Jesus might come with some pushback about cleaning the way it was told to do in the Torah if you were unclean from both touching a woman who was bleeding and or a dead body. But he knows that it's best to keep it calm, and they decide to just have fun with it and have a fun in the sea kind of day. It's such a beautiful moment as the disciples also meet back with Veronica as she too is washing to be cleaned. There's a bittersweet thing when the camera pulls away from the fun being had, and we see Eden standing and watching, her grief so clear upon her. It's so hard and emotional to see it because it can remind you of the times when things should be good, how everyone is having fun and filled with joy, but you're having a battle of your own that you're fighting, and it makes it so hard and even slightly frustrating towards those who are able to have that joy you're so desperate for, but feels forever fleeting at the moment. But that's why it's so important to share your struggle, even more so with God, because He is the one who can heal you when it feels like nothing can or will. Even when something else might, it should be through Him that you trust and heal, and even accompanied by the world's medicine can help, but it should never be the only thing you rely on, nor the first. Lord, just please help me through this. My thoughts are getting bad again. They're getting harder to focus on what's real. I need you. I'm desperate for you. Just please help me. I'm not sure how much longer I can hold on. Help me. Episode 6. Right off the bat, we are in a dream. It's a dream of a snake going through the camp of the disciples while they're asleep, before ending with Jesus awake and praying before turning to the snake, who is the viewer of the dream. We find out that it's actually Pilate's wife who is having the dream, and it's another nightmare alongside many she has been having, another tie to come in later. Pilate is actually getting ready to see an old friend, one who we know very well. We later find out it's Atticus. He's meeting up with him, and the dynamic between the two, it is just so much fun, like in the best kind of way. With some of the disciples, they're sharpening knives. They thought it was a good idea to do with the chaos beginning to arise. It's funny because Philip is alongside with the group sharpening, but instead of a weapon, he's just sharpening some kitchen knives for Eden. Like, this causes a little bit of a punch though to Simon, because he's her husband, and so why not ask him? Just goes to show the still disconnect between the two. We do see some progress between Simon and Matthew, though. He teaches him some self-defense. It's just hilarious in the background how he's doing it, but it's bonding moment. Issues with Quintus. His frustration is rising with the attention of the pilgrims. He calls Gaius in to tell him to slowly start putting a pressure on them to make them move away. Let's just see if that's what our guy does. An intruder in Andrew's house. It's a person named Leander from the Decapolis, a place they ministered at. Apparently things aren't so well there right now, and he's here to come and ask them to come back to help settle things. It was their preaching that caused conflict to rise, or more so to ignite what was already waiting to be started, to say the least. Because they left early, he's hoping if they come back and finish speaking what they came originally before, maybe it will help settle things. Maybe. Mary and Tamar, there is still a little bit of tension between the two that finally comes to surface. Mary thinks Tamar's too bold and holds too much of her past culture still with her, and Tamar has been able to see the frustration Mary's been holding back, with some sly comments here and there about Mary's past herself, like, not cool girl. Mary comes clean and tells her that she thinks that she should be more humble, and yes, that is a quality we are supposed to have, but boldness is still something that is important. In reality, we can learn from both Tamar and Mary. The carefree and boldness of Tamar combined with the humility and meekness Mary has, every situation calls for a different kind of character. Opening up about her feelings towards Tamar makes Tamar open up about herself. She's been so reluctant to sell her jewelry, the bit of past Mary thinks she should let go of, but it's not because it's just from her family that she wants to keep it, but more. It turns out that the necklace she wears was actually passed down from generation to generation of females, and it was actually worn by her mother when she died. Her people were massacred when she and her brother were away, and they came back, and it's the last thing she has. The strife quickly turns to understanding, and our girls are now on better terms, and a friendship seems like it could grow. Atticus meets up with Pilate, and you can see the respect he actually has towards him, the respect and slight frustration. Pilate is definitely like the younger brother, always trying to annoy his older brother. Things are exchanged as much as needed on Atticus' part. He tells of Quintus, and Pilate shows that he has a balancing act to deal with, that he can't be harsh because of Quintus's heavy hand, because those over him have been cracking down on him. So it's kind of like, hey dude, like, I have to be nicer because you want to be so heavy-handed, like, just chill it out. Atticus tells Pilate about Jesus. Even Pilate speaks himself about how he just wants to settle down. He wants peace, but in his line of work, that's a little hard to have. He also tells him to learn all he can about Jesus because he needs to know in case there is ever an issue arising from him. And compared to Quintus, Pilate actually respects Atticus' curiosity and understanding of needing to look in on this issue. Our girlies have come up with the perfect solution for the olive road, a mixture to help better the soil, so hopefully things will better on that front too. Dinner between Eden and Simon. Our poor boy is trying hard again, but her silent grief is still taking hold of her. Things seem like they might be going somewhere, but that changes when some of the disciples come and she's gone once he comes back from the door. It's sad because he actually blew them off, so he could go back to Eden, but another effort is left feeling meaningless. The next morning, we are with Simon, James, and John as they meet up with disciples from John the Baptist. They've come with a message for Jesus to ask if he's the one they've been waiting for. So John is needing a bit more hope to cling to right now, and I'm not blaming him. Gaius goes around the tent city before pilgrims are setting up, but instead of following Quintus's orders of finding problems to push them out, he instead helps them out. It shows so much of his character growth, like, so lovely. Simon Z finally gets his conflict with the ones following him. He tries to tell about Jesus being the Messiah, and that's why he left, but they aren't so keen on believing that to be true. They get to witness for themselves Jesus, though, when he comes back in town, and we get another crowd surrounding him. Both the Zealots and John's disciples get to join, and even Gaius. Jesus is back to healing. John's disciples ask the question of if he's the one, and he answers by instead telling of what he has actually done. Instead of proving by simple words, he gives an account of why they should believe. He goes on to preach some more, and the Zealots follow Simon, hear his words. They aren't so quick to claim it to be true, but do settle from trying to off Simon Z. Some Pharisees try to cause conflict before Jairus comes in, calling about max capacity before Gaius too comes in, enforcing it to help settle the crowd away before any conflict can be had. So our guy is definitely coming around. I can't wait to see the full-on shift. After everything, we meet old friends, Barnaby and Shula. Barnaby has brought Shula to be healed of her blindness. And of course, she is, before Shula asked for Barnaby to be healed as well. He has a limp, but Barnaby just tells him that they came just for Shula. And it's so sweet, but Jesus does indeed heal him. It only takes a moment for Barnaby to know when he's walking away, and I always love the healings. Like, you know me, and I have said it before, like, those are, like, so touching. Simon's back home, and it's finally time for Eden to open up. She tells him about the miscarriage, and it just crushes Simon. She didn't want to distract him or make him regret going off on his mission, but she didn't know it would hurt like it has been. Everything spills now, like how she was hurt that he didn't do anything, didn't ask how she was when he came home, how he went straight to taking a nap, having the boys over, and everything else instead of putting her first like she kept trying to do for him. It's Simon's turn to spiral now. He feels like he failed by not being there, and even frustrated that she's waited so long to tell him, both because he felt he deserved to know and warn their child, which valid, and that it left her to grieve alone. Our poor boy, but finally maybe some healing can be had. We are next into episode 7. It's straight into Simon's anger as he crashes a pot from the top of his roof while everyone else is celebrating Purim. Purim? Purim? I know this. I don't know why I can't say it. Purim. No, Purim? Give me a second.
Purim.
That does not sound right. Okay, well, if they say that's the way you pronounce it, then I guess that's the way you pronounce it. I guess I've just been hearing it all wrong these years. But yes, let's get back into it. They are celebrating Purim. Purim. Still not liking that. Purim. Oh, no. Whatever. They are celebrating a Jewish holiday. Yeah. So, yeah, our boy's not doing too good. This is the start of a spiral that lasts for the rest of the next couple of episodes. Next up is some issues from our other brother, only he's not so frazzled, which Philip makes up for the both of them. Our peacekeeper, not so peaceful in this moment. Their troubles are from the Decapolis as they are coming back. Their trip seemingly made things all the more worse. They tried to tell of a parable of the wedding feast, so yeah, for a mixed crowd, that didn't go down well, like, at all. Either some were upset that Jesus was claiming Gentiles would be coming into the kingdom, others were upset for being told as less than in the story, while others were still having not so great reactions for their own reasons. So their hope is to get Jesus to come. Hopefully he will be able to make things better the way he usually does. Thomas comes back, and it seriously seems like another time full of troubles as his venture didn't end as he would have wanted. Rama's father wasn't so keen on the proposal idea, but Rama stayed behind to hopefully sway him. Let's just hope it works. Jesus has come back, so it's time to ask if he'll go to the Decapolis and help settle that problem. Back with Simon, he's found himself wandering senselessly around and stumbled into a Roman quarter. One of the centurions isn't so happy when they find him, but thankfully Gaius too stumbles upon them and makes a small rescue. He takes him to his home, and we get a drop from Gaius' wife about a doctor and a mention that he said something about a Jewish doctor they were expecting for his young servant boy. A hint that maybe he's thinking about a certain someone to help. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where this story is to be. Gaius takes Simon back, and we get a spill that the servant boy is actually his son. So that's another drop. Apparently, trouble in paradise seems to not be just in our boy's home. Our meeting with Jesus, it's all the disciples but one, Simon. No one seems to notice besides Jesus, who tells John to stay behind. He's frustrated about it, but does as Jesus asks. The rest head out the next morning to the Decapolis to try and help things out. When they get there, they are quick by a boy and his deaf father. It's another miracle before people flood in. Back at home, Simon's picked up by John before he tells him they are headed to the Decapolis. Simon's not caring, but heads anyway, and John's all attitude trying to figure out what Simon's deal is. No one knows about the miscarriage yet, while John's going off on Simon after he's had enough of Simon's own attitude. Simon begins to break down, and John instantly regrets it as Simon tells what his deal actually is. He's frustrated with Jesus because he believes that Jesus can do anything, yet he let Eden suffer while he was away and to take his baby away. He trusted that Jesus would keep her safe, but he feels that he didn't by letting her miscarry. Jesus tries to comfort him, but it doesn't get far. Again, he's frustrated that he believes fully that Jesus is God and that he can do anything, yet he allowed the suffering and loss to happen. We have to be careful of the anger we let sit with us and the blame we place. God cares, but it's times like these that make it so hard to trust his ways, but we need to try even harder to trust him. We are into episode 8. We start off back in 990 BC as King David and Bathsheba are brought in to watch a performance done, a Psalm of Asaph, more specifically Psalm 77. This is a time where Bathsheba is pregnant, I assume with Solomon. After the introduction, our two boys join the rest, and Jesus begins to talk to his disciples, knowing that everyone will listen. It takes another healing in front of everyone before they actually settle down to listen to his word. The crowd very quickly goes to more, eventually to over 5,000 more. Back at home, Eden is ambushed by Mary, Zebedee, and Salome. They came to check on her and try to figure out why Simon's in such a tibby. It's the girls that take note of Eden actually holding her belly and usher Zebedee out before telling more intimately about the matter they're certain has happened. Eden opens up and it tells of how she's frustrated because instead of the hurt being healed, it just seems like it's being opened up more. Even more so with how Veronica seemed to have an instant relief after her cleansing and it not being the same with her. The women tell her how the cases are different. Eden is grieving a loss, not dealing with an illness being lifted. They help her through and suggest going through the synagogue to get a reading to help her draw closer to God in this time. It grows into night and we meet with Shmuel as one of the Pharisees from the Decapolis as he comes to tell him what's going on. It might finally be the thing Shmuel has been looking for. Shmuel takes himself and two others along with him as they head to where Jesus is. Our new Pharisees from the Decapolis even gets the attention of Atticus, who himself heads the way as well. The sermon ends before starting again the next morning. Our boy Simon is still sour about everything, maybe even a little more. It's frustrating for him to see Jesus' care for everyone here, but not seeing how he cared for him. As things grow longer, hunger sets in, but the problem is that there isn't food for everyone. Still, Jesus tells the disciples to feed them. This leads into the miracle of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes turning into an abundance for everyone to be filled. It just goes to show you that the Lord is always capable of satisfying. We went from last season with them starving and now ending this one with them having more than enough. This only seems to frustrate Simon even more. He fully believed Jesus could, but him actually doing so felt like a slap in the face. He follows through with his part of spreading the food, but comes back as he throws his leftovers on the ground before heading off. He rents a boat for them all to get back home faster because there is an oncoming storm coming and he's hoping cutting the distance will keep them from falling into it. John talks with Simon and here's where Simon speaks of him thinking that he was a mistake. This shows even more so where his grief is taking him. It tends to do that, make you angry at others, and even question your own worth and standing with God. We see Shmuel as he's standing there confused about everything. He came after the whole sermon, but has caught word of what it was and even the miracle performed. He's struck now, wondering what his next move should be. Jesus even comes to him after the disciples have gone, and he asks them about it, and Shmuel tells him how he feels. Lost. But maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes it takes us getting lost before we are willing to come back to God. Maybe this is the moment for him that will actually bring him to Jesus. Our enemy finally coming to be on our side. Wouldn't that be nice? Eden at home goes to Yusuf and he reads her the same psalm that was read at the beginning before we watch her cleanse herself again. It cuts between her and the disciples on the water as the storm is full force now. They are worried before taking note of a figure on the water. They think it's a ghost before Jesus tells of it being him. Simon, though, asks if it is him for Jesus to command him to walk on the water. This, of course, solely in the show dealing is more deeper than just that. It's Simon needing to see that Jesus will be there for him, though for both biblical context and the shows, it's a deeper meaning of Jesus telling us to focus on him even in the midst of our storms. The way this encounter reflects what Eden is going through with her cleansing is just so beautifully done, like another masterpiece. Simon walks on the water, but the storm becomes too much of his focus and he full on sinks. This is the final break for him. Eden is praying for him while she's in the water, and it's just such a beautiful moment as Jesus grabs Simon's hand and pulls him up before they get in the boat, and Simon breaks down completely, crying in Jesus' arms. In this moment, he's desperately needing as he begs Jesus not to let him go, speaking more than just in the moment. It seriously is just so heartbreaking and healing in one go. Jesus even commands the storm to cease. It's one miracle after another in this one. We end with the psalm still being spoken, but now back to Asaph as we flash through many of the disciples. Simon coming home to Eden, Matthew praying on his bed, John the Baptist in his cell, Gaius with his sick boy, even Rhema as she is with her father, and Thomas looking out the window, I'm sure longing for her, before we fully pull out back with King David with the finish of the psalm. Like, so amazing as always. Like, always so beautifully done. And that is the end of this review, and I appreciate you all for coming back around as I always do. And I would ask you to please like, subscribe, and that is it. I pray blessings upon you all. Goodbye.